I'm going to reclaim.
But
let me
understand
reclaim
that you
time.
are protecting someone that is at the table now.
This
that has clearances.
This subpoena is for personal emails, who their domestic help is, who's watching their. That's ridiculous. That is completely off the table. Mr. Chairman.
Would you please, just one last point, Ranking Member, please, just 30 seconds. It stopped becoming personal when they got access into the room. It stopped becoming personal when they got security clearances. It stopped becoming personal when they're in the room making decisions that impact the American people. And they also are sitting at the Trump Organization businesses table as well, making decisions. Remember that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. After watching that short clip from the hearing, it's easy to see why some people feel frustrated. Critics say the exchange quickly became heated, with sharp disagreements over the direction of the questioning. Supporters of Jim Jordan argue that he stepped in to challenge what he saw as an overreach during the discussion. The debate centers on issues connected to Donald Trump and investigations involving him and members of his family. Some critics claim the questioning goes too far into personal matters, raising concerns about privacy. They point to requests for information such as personal communications and other details they believe fall outside the scope of normal oversight. Others, however, argue that congressional investigations sometimes require broad document requests in order to determine whether any conflicts of interest or misconduct occurred. During the exchange, Jordan strongly criticized the scope of the subpoena being discussed, saying it focused on personal details rather than sensitive government information. Supporters of his position see the inquiry as politically motivated, while supporters of the investigation argue it is part of Congress's oversight responsibilities. The disagreement highlights the intense political divide surrounding investigations tied to Trump and his family. Let's watch the full exchange and see exactly how the discussion unfolds.
I think it's really important for my colleagues to understand that we're talking about transparency and talking about oversight. These are messages that impact the American people. That right now, all I hear is this fear from the other side of information that might come about Ivanka, and we got to protect it. You know, that's all I hear is that you're choosing to protect family members of this current administration that have access to information. They are at the table making decisions on behalf of the American people.
Reclaiming.
They don't have any privacy anymore. They also have to be accountable to us in this chamber. And Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, I understand that you want to talk about the specific processes and we want to go back and forth about Hillary Clinton and
I'm going to reclaim.
but understand that you
time.
are protecting someone that is at the table now.
This subpoena is for personal emails, who their domestic help is, who's watching their. That's ridiculous. That is completely off the table. Mr. Chairman.
Would you please, just one last point, Ranking Member, please, just 30 seconds. It stopped becoming personal when they got access into the room. It stopped becoming personal when they got security clearances. It stopped becoming personal when they're in the room making decisions that impact the American people. And they also are sitting at the Trump Organization businesses table as well, making decisions. Remember that. Fear that. Because no matter if there's an R or D next to our name, fear the fact that we have corporations, people sitting at the table.
Mr. Chairman, I want to reclaim my time.
Had secured commitments to provide more than 9 million apprenticeships and job opportunities for industries all over the country. We're helping people get jobs. We're helping Walmart and so many companies. They went all out. They went all out, and they're working with a person you may have heard of, perhaps not, Ivanka Trump. She loves it. She loves it. I'll tell you, she didn't need it. She loves it. More than anything, that's what she loves, because she says we're providing so many jobs, and they're training people. And, you know, the government can't really train them. When you go into these big companies, the Caterpillars and all of these, you got to sort of be trained by the people that do it. The complexity, the aerospace, Lockheed Martin has been great, Boeing has been great. There's so many. And they can train much better than the government. The government really wouldn't know where to begin, so they're training. We're going to have close to 10 million very shortly, and Ivanka really has done an incredible job on that. So I might as well give her credit, because the media will never give her credit. So she's my daughter, I'll give her credit, but it's true. And you know what? If she didn't do a good job, I don't know that I'd say that, but I wouldn't be talking about her. That I can tell you. I wouldn't. I'd probably just fluff over it. She's done an incredible job. There's truly never been a better time to be young and American. There's never been a...
But I want to start with holding our members accountable here on Capitol Hill. Now, this was posted on social media, and it reads like false statements that we've seen from Hamas and other groups who want to foment hate and death in the region. It reads like this: Israel just bombed the Baptist hospital building, killing 500 Palestinians, doctors, children's patients, just like that. That was within an hour or two of the bombing, before we knew anything, before any of us could have possibly had a secured briefing, before we'd gotten an assessment from the President of the United States or any of our intelligence sources here, before we could go down to the skiff and actually understand the details, that statement was made. Now, you'd think that'd come from a member of Hamas, but it came from a member of our Congress. If that member of Congress wants to take responsibility for the protests that we now see in Beirut, good on you. In Jordan, in Oman, and in Egypt, this sort of leadership or failure of leadership has no place on Capitol Hill. Now I want to talk about why I think Hamas is evil and why Iran's a part of this, and why this is not surprising that the very details of this attack took place. Earlier this year in February, I was in, well, let me back up. A couple of years ago, I was in Israel, and we went down to the Gaza Strip. We saw a tunnel head. We actually walked into a tunnel that was discovered by the Israelis. We went to a Patriot battery or an Iron Dome battery that every day is prepared to shoot down missiles, because it almost happens before this attack. It happens almost on a daily basis. I've literally been in Israel when I'm having lunch in northern Israel. This was near the Golan Heights, and I'm asking somebody to pass a plate of food. A bomb goes off, and the people living in this kibbutz did not even miss a beat. Every day they have to live with this stuff. So now down in Gaza, we see the tunnel system that's in Gaza. If you go north to the Lebanese border, you will see an entire network of tunnels that the Israelis identified just in time. It had been a project that was estimated to be 10 years in the making, funded by Iran. Hezbollah is in Lebanon. Hamas is down in Gaza Strip. They had developed these tunnel networks, and they were prepared to do the same thing in northern Israel that we saw in southern Israel over the past week and a half. And they even want to design this to strike fear and terror in the Israeli people. They want them to think, they want their children to think that they're going to pop out of the ground and kidnap them and kill their parents. This is a part of the terror that they want the Israeli people to live in every single day. And the Iranians were absolutely responsible for funding Hamas to build that tunnel network in northern Israel. And they do the same thing with Hamas in southern Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, first off, this has to end. Let's work with facts. And if Israel doesn't abide by the rules of war, then we should hold them accountable. But what we're finding out now from additional intelligence sources is that it does appear as though this was not an Israeli strike, that it was probably a failed missile launch from Hamas. We'll let the facts lead where they may, but here's what I do know. This congressional members and others, before they can actually stand up for the Palestinian people, who I believe the majority of whom are good people who want to live free and live in democracy, they have to recognize that Hamas is evil, every single one of them, from their leadership down to their rank and files, to the ones who flew the ultralights in, to the people who came out of the tunnels and murdered over 1,200 people. They have to be held accountable. Their funder has to be held accountable. Their strategists in Iran have to be held accountable. And we in the United States have to stand by Israel and by freedom-loving Palestinians and freedom-loving members of the Middle East. But we cannot let this go. We cannot let this evil go unchecked. And we have to stand by Israel, and we have to make sure that we do everything we can to educate the American people on the facts and disabuse them of any notion that this congressional member or anyone else has any place in communicating that misinformation to the American people and across the world. And the violence that can come from making people believe that, they have to own.
Unbelievable. I've watched that exchange several times, and it raises more questions each time. Critics of the moment argue that the issue being raised suggests that because someone holds a security clearance, Congress should be able to access extensive details about their personal life, things like household staff or private communications. That's the point supporters of Jim Jordan say he was pushing back against during the exchange. The argument from the other side, voiced by Rashida Tlaib, centers on transparency and accountability when individuals with security clearances are involved in government matters. Supporters of that position say oversight sometimes requires examining who has access to sensitive environments or information. Critics, however, argue that holding a security clearance shouldn't mean giving up constitutional protections, such as privacy. From their perspective, there's concern about where the line should be drawn between legitimate oversight and intrusion into personal matters. During the hearing, Jordan responded calmly but firmly, saying the requests being discussed went too far and calling the line of questioning unreasonable. Supporters of Jordan say his approach, simply calling out what he viewed as excessive, was the right way to address it. Some commentators also connect the exchange to broader controversies involving Tlaib. For example, after an explosion at a hospital in Gaza during the war involving Hamas and Israel Defense Forces, Tlaib posted statements blaming Israel before all details were confirmed. Later intelligence assessments suggested the blast may have been caused by a misfired rocket from militants in Gaza. The situation became highly politicized in Washington, with figures such as Tom Tillis criticizing her comments on the Senate floor. Supporters of Tlaib argue that early reporting around that incident was confusing and that many public figures reacted before full information was available. Critics say statements made before the facts were clear contributed to misinformation and heightened tensions. For critics of Tlaib, the pattern they see is one where political confrontations escalate quickly, both in congressional hearings and on social media. Supporters, however, argue she is raising concerns about accountability and human rights that deserve attention. The broader debate reflects the deep divisions in American politics right now, especially on issues involving oversight, privacy, and foreign policy. What do you think about the exchange? Do you believe Congress should have that level of access when someone holds a security clearance? Or should there be stricter limits to protect personal privacy? Share your thoughts in the comments.